Alright, hello everybody. I'm sorry for the delay. This video was supposed to be yesterday, but it ended up getting pushed back to this morning just because I had some things going on yesterday. But today's episode is really just going to be about mainly men's mental health and, how we can overcome that and, the difficulties of it and, a lot of people are victims at a young age and kind of just like throughout their lives. It's not really something that's really like, talked about too much. And that's kind of a problem because, I see these videos and I see these, these podcasts and these comments and these people like coming out for like help and, like they're going to say like, hey, random person on YouTube, you saved my life, like your videos kind of like brought me happiness in a dark place. And the creator will kind of just like, just like look past that, unless he's in a live, someone comments it and, he'll respond. But, other than that, he doesn't really give it much thought. And that kind of bothers me because like, someone's coming to you for, help and support. And, you kind of just look past that. That's what I'm going to try not to do. So, and after this video, if anyone needs help or wants to talk about something or just wants to get something off your chest or just wants to talk about mental health or something like that, then text me. I'll put my socials in the description below. But back to the point of our video. Men's mental health is so overlooked in the day and like especially today's day and age, just because a lot of people feel like if you talk about your feelings or you talk about like how you feel or how you think, then you're kind of just like soft. And a man doesn't want to be looked at like he's quote soft or just vulnerable or he doesn't really feel like he has a place to go or someone to talk to. And you don't want to go to therapy because that therapist is paid to care. So you don't want to go talk to someone who's like paid to care. You kind of want someone who's gonna like be there for you, be your genuine friend, or your if it's your wife, your girlfriend, or your husband or boyfriend, whatever you got going on. And you feel like you need to talk to them, but you kind of can't, just because like you don't want to seem weak or you don't want to seem like you're vulnerable or soft. Whenever you talk about mental health, it's the one thing we can control. Like I can control if I think of red or yellow or purple or blue or something like that. I can't control my health. I can't control the weather. I can't control the traffic. I can't control what song plays on the radio. So really the one thing that we can really control is our mind and how we think and our mindset and how we are with God. Because I've come to realize the past few days, after my last video, I did some heavy thinking and I was just thinking in myself, despite me being disabled and stuff like that, if I really wasn't, how I said a strong body is a strong mind, I would be in the gym trying to build myself, because like a strong body is a strong mind. And I feel like whenever you have your life together and you feel like you can like do anything you want in life, I feel like that's a good mindset. And that's good for your mental health. I feel like a lot of things with mental health, people are like, it's not like they don't have nothing to do, it's more along the lines of they don't know what to do. Because yeah, they can go to the park or they can go and go shopping or go play a video game or something like that. So there's things to do. It's just maybe it's not what that person wants. Trying to find what that person wants and trying to find mainly what you want in life is kind of in life. You need to find what you want, because so many other people can tell you X and Y, and that they're like, hey, Dave, you should go do this, hey Tyler, you need to do this, but you're not feeling that, and you don't really know how to talk about how you feel. So I feel like that can also be a burden on your mental health, and maybe you just feel like you need a girlfriend or something like that. A lot of that also comes with building up with yourself, building with God, and trying to like do better. And maybe your job is also a part of your mental health. Maybe your job just isn't like what you want it to be. It isn't your dream job. Your boss is just not, or just your coworkers just aren't a nice person. a, a sticky area like that, because I'm very big on environment, really. If I'm in a good environment, then I have a good mindset and I have a good drive. If I'm in a environment, I'll try to like pull myself back. I'll like distance myself, because I don't want to be around that. It's sticky. It's like gum after it's been out for a while. It's sticky, and the longer it stays there, the harder it is to remove. Kind of like your same thing with life. The harder you stay there, the harder you stay in that position, the harder it's going to be to pull away, because you're so stuck there. Kind of like a job, or just anything you got going on that can relate to absolutely anything. I feel like a lot of that can also affect your mental health, and like some trauma based things, or some just some trauma based things, or something that happened in your past, that you can't really just like look past on. You're kind of just like stuck there. If you feel like you're stuck, and you feel like you've been in that gum for too long, and you got something from the past that is holding you back, and you got something, or something that happened to you at a young age that you just don't, that's been stuck with you your whole life, and you just don't know how to talk about it, or you don't want to talk about it, and it constantly affects your mental health, and you don't want to talk to your friends or your wife or whatever you got going on. Maybe instead of trying to talk to somebody, maybe you should try talking to God. Yes, God is somebody. I'm not saying he's not. I'm saying because like God is always listening. Like maybe you should try talking to God, because I feel like whenever I talk to God about certain things that I can't talk to my best friend about, or something like that, I feel like it gives me a more clear answer of like, he's not going to answer you right away, or he's not going to tell you, yes or no, or something like that. He's going to make you see it in a way, or he's going to make you open up in a way that's going to make you feel more comfortable, or more like, he's going to make you open up. And like, if you open up, and if you talk about your mind and your mindset, and your mental health, you're not soft, and you're not a little crybaby. You're not soft. You're not vulnerable. You're not any of those things. You're just seeking help. And I feel like, especially in my generation, that's kind of really hard to find as someone to open up about, or someone to open up to, because you just feel like you have to be so strong, and so like real-minded, and so just like down to earth, or you have to have such a deep core. You don't have to always be that way. It's good to be that way. Sometimes there is times in life where you have to be that way. But constantly, 24/7, 365, you don't always have to be that way. It's good to open up, and it's good to open up to God, and it's good to open up to your friends, and it's good to build a relationship with God. And it's also good for your health, for not only just for your mental health, but just for absolutely any reason in this world I can name. Start going to church, because I've been doing that lately, and I feel like I've deeply connected with not only myself, but also with God. And trying to find, being in that holy area, and being in that, just the presence of the Lord, just being in the presence of God. I feel like you can definitely find yourself, and you can definitely find your purpose. And not only that, you can also you can build a relationship with God. You can find God. and you know that God is there. Because whenever you feel right with yourself, whenever you feel right with like what you're doing and your mindset and your mental health, and kind of just like you feel right just there, you just feel like you got it down 100%. You also got it right with God, because God doesn't forget your prayers, okay? He hears all of your prayers, even the ones you preferably him forget. He's not gonna forget. Some of them he may not answer, or some of them he may, but that doesn't mean he's gonna answer them within a week or a day or a month. Sometimes he answers them within a year, 5 years, 10 years, and you're gonna remember, wow, man, I remember I prayed that prayer whenever ago, and now it's being answered. And that's truly just amazing how like we have a God who is just so forgiving and so loving and just so, I'm trying to find the right word, I'm sorry. He's just so like just meaningful, and he can do anything, and he's just there for absolutely anything. And whenever you actually give your life to him, I feel like that's truly a blessing. And whenever you do like come to God, I feel like a lot of your mental health and a lot of your stress and a lot of your thoughts, they tend to get better over time. And a lot of things heal you, and a lot of things heal mentally, and a lot of dark things start to fade away, and a lot of the bright starts to come out. And there's no sunshine without rain, or there's no rainbow without the storm. Or what I mean by that is there's going to be dark times, and yeah, that's life. Okay, we have dark times. It's not always going to be easy, and you just have to keep your chin up. You have to keep your mindset. You have to keep your mental health good. You have to keep your relationship with God good. You have to keep all of that good. And like I feel like if you do that, then you'll be true to yourself, and you'll finally feel like you're at peace. And I feel like that's what this world needs. And it's just, I'm not forgetting what to say. I don't have a script or nothing. I'm just going off my thoughts here. I'm just trying to find the best way to put this without sounding, arrogant or, something like that. Because I don't want to come off arrogant or, like with ego or something like that. I'm just trying to make my point of like, if you find yourself and you find your mental health and you find God and you just find mainly God, because God is, he's the true light. Whenever they say follow the light, that's not just an expression. That's actually follow the light, follow God. And that's not just if you're dying. That's like if follow the light all through life, and blessings will come along the way. But the point of this video is to just try to find your peace, find your way, and find God. And firstly, find God, find peace, find yourself, fix your mindset, and then fix your mental health. But all of that relies on God. You can't do anything without God. So that's kind of the point of this video. Because I got to get back to what I was doing, so I'm gonna wrap this up. But again, if you feel like you need somebody or someone or something or just whatever it is, text me or DM me or shoot me DM me, text me, comment, and I'll see it and I'll reply, and we can go from there. I love you. God loves you. Stay true to yourself. Fix your mindset. Have good mental health. And start going to church. And just go to church and build off that, okay? That's going to be your homework. Go to church and build off that. Because God can work miracles. And I've seen it with my own eyes. So I'm going to wrap it up. Thank y'all. Goodbye.